And so begins the prologue of the Wife of Bath. The Wife of Bath was a lovely lady with a gap between her teeth, excess weight, and beautiful red stockings. The Wife of Bath got what she wanted, and she knew how to go about getting it. She was very good with men, if you know what I mean. In her lifetime, she made herself 5 husbands. The first 3 were good. They were old and rich and died off quickly. The 4th cheated on her with the maiden next door. But it was all right.
I've got another one.
Because the Wife of Bath already had a new man. Once the 4th died, the Wife of Bath moved on to Jenkin, her 5th and youngest husband. She married for love, but he turned out to be a donkey. He told her of all the horrible women in literature and history and hit her so hard, she lost hearing in one ear. One day, she hit back and tore pages out of his books. But after she recovered, Jenkin put her in charge of the household, and they became quite a cordial couple. And so begins the Wife of Bath's tale. In the days of King Arthur, one of his knights was riding through the forest and saw a woman that was so pretty that he violently attacked her.
King Arthur sentenced the knight to death. But the queen took pity on him and gave him a year and a day to complete a quest. He had to find out what women want the most. King Arthur sentenced the knight to death. King Arthur sentenced the knight to death. But the queen took pity on him and gave him a year and a day to complete a quest. He had to find out what women want the most.
The knight looked everywhere, but no people could agree on what women wanted the most. Some said money, some said clothes, others said happiness, and some said freedom. After searching for a year and a day, the knight had still not found what women want most, because no one can. So he had to return to the castle in defeat. However, on his way, he came across a group of about 20 women dancing in the field. But when he came to talk to them, they had all disappeared, only to have left was an ugly old woman. The ugly old woman told the knight that she could help him if he promised to do anything that she wanted him to. The knight accepted, and the old lady whispered to his ear the answer. Action. Once back at the court, the queen sat before the knight and asked him what it is that women want most. The knight answered that women want to have the power over their husbands and have final say in all matters. The queen rejoiced in his correct answer. Abruptly, the ugly old hag stood in front and asked the knight to marry her. She said that she had saved his life and now he owed her. The knight refused, saying that she was too old, ugly, and poor. But in the end, a promise was a promise, and the knight had to marry the old hag. Once back at the court, the queen stood before the knight and asked him what it is that women want most. The knight answered that women want to have power over their husbands and to have the final say in all matters. The queen rejoiced in his correct answer. Abruptly, the ugly old hag stood up and asked the knight to marry her. She said that she had saved his life and now he owed her. The knight refused, saying that she was too old, ugly, and poor. But in the end, a promise was a promise, and the knight had to marry the hag. One day after the wedding, the knight was complaining to his wife about how disgusting and poor she was. And he even said that he wished she was dead. The ugly old lady said that she could have changes in her looks, but she could change her class. She offered her husband two choices. She could be old and gross but faithful, or young and beautiful but liable to cheat. The knight decided to let her decide because, after all, that is what women want most. The next day, when the knight woke up, in the place of the old hag was a young and beautiful and faithful wife. And from that day on, the couple lived happily ever after. Aww.
Go.
And thus ends the tale of the wife of Bath. She tells this tale to tell of her life and how she lives over her husband's indominance.